How's it going, fam? Welcome back to Erica's EDC, and today we are going to do a follow-up of yesterday's sharpening of the LT Wright Knives Packer in 1075 blade steel. So yesterday I did a full sharpening video of this knife. It was the first time that I have ever sharpened this knife, and the first time that I've ever even used 1075 or sharpened it or anything. And when I was sharpening this knife, the moment I hit the stones with it, I could tell it was soft. And luckily, this is all recorded in real time. There's no editing, there's no cutting of the film, nothing. You can go watch this video. It'll be the one right before this. But, you know, the moment I started working on it, I said, this feels soft. Because the way it was moving across the stones, it felt very gummy. And the whole video is like a 20-minute long video, and the entire thing is me trying to sharpen this, chasing a burr around, trying to strop it, trying to deburr it, and it was kind of just a very good representation of what we are going to be proving in my upcoming fixed blade testing. So this video is kind of just almost like an introduction to what we're going to try to prove, right? Because I have a hypothesis, and I think the end analysis is going to prove exactly this. But yesterday's video was a perfect prime example of what I'm talking about. So, you know, yesterday I sharpened it. I was trying to deburr it, and, you know, the burr is flopping back and forth. And at the end, we did get this sharp. Like, it is very sharp now. But the sharpening experience took way too long, and it told us a lot about this knife and this steel. So my hypothesis, which I've stated a couple times, but the whole reason that we're going to be running this fixed blade testing for the rest of the year is because I have a hypothesis that knife companies, some production knife companies, run their knives thick. They say that they run them thick for toughness and soft for toughness, right? That's what we hear. That is what we're told. And that's kind of, that doesn't make any sense, because you do one of those. You don't do both. You either run it geometry-wise, thick for toughness, or you run the heat treat and the hardness low for toughness. If you do both, that is literally a turd with scales on it. This is not a turd. This is a work of art. But what I'm saying is, if you run something thick and soft for toughness, it's literally a piece of poop with some scales on it. That's what it is, because it makes no sense. And the real reason why companies do that, in my opinion, is because they're basically simply lazy. You know, the harder you run things and the thinner you run things, and basically the better work you do, the more money it's going to cost you as the maker. You're going to go through more belts. It's going to take more time, more effort. And so instead of doing all of that, they basically just try to dupe you by saying, we're running this thick and soft for toughness, and it's going to have ease of sharpening in the field for you. This is what you want, which is a complete lie. And that's the whole point of my testing, which I'll be proving. So it was very funny to me that I caught this all on camera, because in one 20-minute video, I debunked that whole thing pretty easily, okay? So the issue with running steels with a bad heat treat or soft is that they're not easy to sharpen. That is a marketing scheme, okay? That is an excuse for being lazy. So in the video of this knife, I had to work on it for 20 minutes. And a lot of the time consumption of that was chasing the burr. Now, if you don't know what that means or what I'm talking about, basically what happens is, when you have a knife, it's a bunch of tiny microscopic teeth. Okay, so let's pretend that these are the teeth at the very apex of your edge, okay? They're a bunch of little tiny microscopic teeth, almost like a tiny saw. And all of the teeth are lined up like this when you have a nice, clean, fresh edge that is sharp. And over time, as you use it, upon impact and friction and force, cutting things on surfaces, those little teeth bend out of shape, okay? So our nice, sharp, pointy teeth end up, you know, kind of deforming. They bend to the side, And that creates a dull edge because the teeth are not pointing up anymore. They're kind of squished, right? So this is a dull edge here. And when you're sharpening, what you're doing is you're taking a surface harder than the steel itself, and you are pushing those teeth back into alignment to make a sharp edge again. In that process, you do something called deburring. And what that is because you can only work on one side at a time, obviously, on the blade. So what happens is, let's say you have your dull knife and you work on one side, right? So you push those teeth back up during sharpening, but what happens is they kind of push up like that, right? And it creates what's called a burr, and you can feel it. It's kind of prickly. So when you're sharpening and you're finished with one side, you have a burr, and it's coming up almost over your edge, and you can feel it. It's like a little tiny barbed wire fence, and it's prickly, and what you have to do is deburr it. You have to take that burr off to go to the other side, because you want to bring that down as much as possible. That way your apex is nice and clean, right? So we have those teeth kind of coming up and over, and a very important process in sharpening is removing the burr, okay? Now, when you have a steel that's too soft, where the HRC is too low, what will happen is the burr will walk, it will flip, whatever you want to call it. Everyone calls it something different, but basically what can happen is when the steel is too soft or the heat treat is done incorrectly, the burr will not actually remove, it will just flip to the other side. And then that can actually keep happening as you're trying to deburr. So something that's very common with poorly done knives is you go to deburr, and the burr, instead of coming off, it actually just flips onto the other side. And then you can feel it on the other side. So you try to get it off, and then it flips back to the opposite side that it started on. And that is not something that we look for. That's actually a very clear sign of a poor heat treat or a soft steel, is when the burr is flipping back and forth and playing games with you, and you can't just get it off, okay? So that's what happened yesterday in my video, and you can see it all in real time. I'm chasing this burr around. Every time I would get it off of one side, it would flip to the other, and then I'd have to get it off that side. And what's problematic about that is that it takes longer to sharpen. So this steel, this 1075, was not easy to sharpen. And that's actually something that would have really caused a severe headache in the field, is this burr chasing. So these knives are run thick, soft, poorly done for ease of sharpening in the field and for toughness, when in reality, that's not true. That is a marketing scheme to get you to buy things. Soft, low HRC steels are actually harder to sharpen because you have this issue of the burr flipping back and forth, and you cannot correctly apex a knife if you have a micro burr. So I'm really glad I caught it on camera, because like I said, there's no editing or anything, and I'm using all these different things. I'm using raw leather, I'm using a ceramic honing rod, I'm using basswood loaded with 2 and 5.5 micron diamond paste. I'm using all these different things to try to get this burr to just come off, as opposed to flipping to the other side. And like I said, that would have been a really big headache in the field. That is not easy to sharpen. So it just goes to show that, you know, some of these things that we're told about these lower tier simple steels, we're told that they're that way for us as consumers to make our lives easier, when in reality that is not true at all, okay? And a lot of these companies or people tend to kind of bash super steels, saying they're too hard, and you know, they may be good for some applications, but they're going to be too hard and too tough to work with if you're someone who really uses your knives, if you bring them out in the field. Well, that's funny, because on film in real time, this Steve Kalari Custom Knives Steadfast EDC in Magnacut at 63.5 HRC took me a matter of 5 minutes to sharpen and strop from being dull, and that's all it took. So that's kind of interesting, because in theory, this is supposed to be hard to sharpen, take a long time, you need special abrasives, not good to sharpen in the field. Well, that's really interesting, because this took 20 minutes and was not easy, and this took 5 minutes and was extremely simple, and the deburring process was incredible. This 1075 is advertised as 57 to 59 HRC, just a heads up. I don't actually know the true HRC on this. This is advertised 57 to 59, and then I know for a fact, because this is from Steve and we talk and he told me, this is 63.5. So we're already debunking my hypothesis, right? Because Magnacut was created for ease of sharpening. It's supposed to be very easy to deburr, and literally with this, using the same ceramic rod that I did with this, I can deburr this Magnacut at 63.5 with 1 or 2 swiping motions on a ceramic rod, and it doesn't flip the burr, it just removes, because this is hard enough, the steel is hard enough where it doesn't flip. The burr just comes off. It doesn't break off, it doesn't roll to the other side, it just removes as it is supposed to. Because the steel is hard enough where the material comes off, as opposed to bending. It's not malleable, it doesn't bend to the other side. It's too hard for that, so it just comes off. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. That's why I am constantly advocating for knives with higher hardness and better properties, because the whole idea of, well, we run these old steels soft for you because it will benefit your life, that's not true. It's just simply not true. And if you look into the science of things, that's fake. That's a marketing scheme to run knives soft and thick to make some quick money. And it takes more time and more money and more effort and more attention to detail and more materials to do it the right way. So some people don't do it. Now, I'm not bashing LT Wright. I actually think that the people there are very cool. I love their designs. I think they have built a reputation for the bushcraft community. And they offer USA made knives with custom fit and finish quality at affordable pricing, and I appreciate all of that. However, I have the mindset of do it right or don't do it at all. End of story. And I just am confused as to how this fits the bill. It's only $96 shipped with a sheath from JRE Industries, so it's under $100, okay? In the grand scheme of things, that's cheap. Like, a good deal. But what are you getting? You're getting something that kind of doesn't really perform. Like, you're going to have to touch this up every time you use it. Every night, when you come home from work after you've used this, you're going to have to touch it up. When, for a little bit more money, you could get something that you don't have to touch up for weeks. So I just wanted to kind of do a follow-up of that video yesterday because it was a beautiful example of what people are talking about. Me, Steve Kalari, Kyle from the Scrawny Lumberjack, even my buddy Zeb, like so many people that I talk to and work alongside with, we're trying to kind of, clear the air and educate. And that was a perfect example of why it just doesn't make sense. Some things that happen just don't quite make sense. Hell, even Jared over at Neves Knives made a video reiterating exactly what I have been saying on my videos. I think he was using some hinderer knives as examples. Why run things thick for toughness and soft for toughness. He has a whole video on that, but it's parroting exactly what I said a couple weeks ago. So the whole point is, again, not to detract customers from these makers, not to take their money, not to bash. It's just to educate. I just want to show you guys other options because there are things out there that may be worth your time and money more so. They may benefit you more. You may have a better user experience. And there are people that say that Magnacut is a super steel and it's going to be too hard, it's going to be too tough to work with, etc., etc. No, it's not. This knife right here, this exact knife, is one of the best easiest knives I've ever worked with. It holds an edge forever. I've literally batoned with it on camera and nothing happened to it. Extremely easy to touch up, to sharpen, to deburr, everything. This is a prime example of what a knife should be. If you're doing the best of the best, if you're striving for perfection, this is a beautiful representation of that. And if you want perfection and you want something to work for you, all I'm saying is maybe there's a better option out there for you. If you're used to something like this where you constantly have to invest time into it, if you're not into that, maybe look into saving up a little more money and investing in something that actually may work for you, like this Steve Kalari Steadfast EDC. That's the whole point of my videos and my testing and everything that we're going to be doing. That's all I want to do, is just shine light on some people that are doing it very well, in my opinion. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I hope that you guys understand. Please let me know if you have questions, comments, concerns down below. I really hope that this kind of clears the air about the myth of ease of field sharpening. whatever that is. Yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed that. Go use your shit. Learn how to sharpen your knives. Buy a Steve Kalari customized Steadfast EDC in whatever style you want. This one's beautiful. I will see you guys on the next video. I love you so much, fam. Take care.